Insecurity, you don't talk. Do it. Whether you acknowledge, whether you appreciate it or not, is another thing. The question is your country safe? Is there stability in your country? Can people come and invest in your country? Can education system run on its own? Can there not be insurgency on traces of it? Are you addressing the known causes of insurgency in your land? Peace and stability restored in your country. That is when you know the security is working. The way it is being promoted every day, that is when you know they are stagnant, or they are compromising their primary assignment, or they are not there at all. You see, even yesterday, when we had the opportunity of supporting leadership, people only knew my name. They didn't know me. I was in several places. People will be talking about me alongside with me in their midst, but they didn't know who I was up until a certain point in time. And I think most people also didn't know me, even when the propaganda started on me. Up until Oputa started in the year 2000, October, we were brought to Lagos. They didn't know who Mustapha was. My description was that of a giant, an illiterate who doesn't know, who cannot speak, cannot even write, who was there thumbprinting his name in paper, who doesn't know God Almighty, who was always there bullying people by his structure. That was the way I was described in most magazines in the country. Most unfortunate. But when Oputa panel started, that was when many people came to the fore, including religious leaders coming to talk to me in prison. I remember there were bishops who did that. So looking at what we did yesterday and the opportunity of providing leadership from the center to the country are two different worlds apart. We have satellite, so we can say, okay, spend 1 week and in looking at the activities of foreigners in Nigeria. There are more foreigners in wrong places in Nigeria in hundreds of thousands by the day, just in search of solid mineral resources for themselves. But there are individual Nigerians who are standing in for them. And there are hundreds of thousands of whites who sit with Boko Haram, who feed Boko Haram. They share common food. They recharge their batteries for their telephones, for their laptops, with which they have been communicated to by hostile international bodies in dealing with the same Nigeria. And such international hostile bodies are also patronizing your oil and your natural resources. And to you, it is right. And one disturbing thing we discovered is that the whole world over, anywhere you go, a foreigner has some no-go areas in that country. There are places you cannot go, but only in Nigeria. The citizen has some no-go areas. The foreigner has everywhere to go to. Only in Nigeria. Failure of institutions, lack of foresight, lack of laws, lack of law enforcement, lack of knowledge in our law enforcement, lack of patriotism in our leaders or in some of our leaders at all sub levels that are entrusted to provide leadership. Meaning, once you have the leadership in Nigeria, you are just coming to do labor work in a scientific manner, carrying all along. That's why I can say at this point to tell you, any person that lacks the wherewithal, the energy, the vision, the capacity, the patriotism, any person who has stolen yesterday, I'm coming to say, I have repented and I'm coming to provide leadership. That is deceit. Don't accept such a person. And I'm not campaigning. I'm not telling people to look for who, but I'm telling you there are numerous qualities to look for. But people with such qualities that are in the rest, if only Nigerians know, they should know that these are fake people. They are coming in to give you the worst that we are in. All I have been talking about all along is to how to get democracy deeply rooted in Nigeria, thereby creating opportunities for all and sundry and all across Nigeria and generations to come. Number two is to say that we have the know-how to get it done because we have spent so much time in making our latest researches in the last 5 years, 7, 8 months now that I talked about. Remember, we have had experiences in correcting and molding that the same democracy and then governance and creating opportunities for Nigerians. What we did yesterday are still what the same system today is resting upon. So we're not just talking because we say we will do it. We will do it and it is doable. Now the issue of proliferation. If we at all want to do it, the world has gone far. Technology has gone far. There are equipments today where within 200 meters radius of any suspected environment, if there are compilation of arms more than 5, you will know it. So if they want to do it, it is doable and we can do it. We know how to mop it up. It's a matter of keeping it to ourselves. Today, countries are being complemented in their internal security with satellites or some certain smaller equipments that you hold and move about with it. And locations of arms will tell you. So it does not require a long-term arrangement, too much talks and too much grammar trying to please Nigerians. No, you want to do it in security, you don't have to talk. Security, provision, and democracy, particularly what the law allows for you to say, I can do this. So sell yourself to people. That is another thing, and that's what the law defines. In security, you don't talk. Do it. Whether you are acknowledged, whether you are appreciated or not, is another thing. The question is your country safe? Is there stability in your country? Can people come and invest in your country? Can education system run on its own? Can there not be insurgency on traces of it? Are you addressing the known causes of insurgency in your land? Peace and stability restored in your country. That is when you know the security is working. But where it is being promoted every day, that is when you know they are stagnant, or they are compromising their primary assignment, or they are not there at all. That's the fact.
Let's start this conversation by finding out what is your political ideology. I'm asking directly because I want, and the world wants to meet you. So tell us who you are and what drives you, especially where leadership in Nigeria is concerned. Why are you interested in leadership in Nigeria?
I thank you so very much. My name is Hamza Al-Mustapha. I'm sure I'm the candidate of Action Alliance, and I am running for presidency 2023. I, based on personal principles, did not enforce myself into seeking for the seat. But I have Nigerians at home and in diaspora who became committed in believing that we can make the difference this time around. And driven from this, and then my own calculations at the end of the day, then I found myself in the race in Action Alliance. And here we are today, having succeeded at the convention and becoming the candidate. I'm convinced that I have a lot to play looking at Nigerian state. That's where it started. We dissected the state of Nigeria and realized that time has come to any person or persons who are willing to come to the fore to scientifically look at Nigeria from the point of it and draw their own manifesto therefrom out of realism. Nigeria has come to a point where primarily nothing works. I'm talking about all institutions. There is not today a single institution that one can look at and say this institution is firmly standing on its feet in service in Nigeria. So it is in the absence of this that we believe we have a lot of work to do. If we succeed in clinching the ticket and winning the ticket 2023, we believe we have a lot to do logically, systematically, and collectively with those who will employ to come along with us, many resource persons from across Nigeria who will deliver Nigeria. This country is at a point where it deserves all efforts, all means, all scientific means from old and young, where knowledge, experience, and wisdom should be seen to be deployed to rescue this country. This is sincerely speaking. So we believe, looking at our economy, our security, foreign relations, the challenges in our diplomatic challenges facing Nigeria, international trade, the new world order, and then looking deeply into all the social ills facing Nigeria, and the need to introduce numerous things, numerous institutions that will be supportive. Objectively, there are gaps created already from either lack of foresight in the past, lack of strategic planning, and then lack of strategic application as to what is expected of administrations in the past. So that alone has convinced us that we have a lot to do. And then the next leadership is meant for those who are ready to sacrifice themselves. The idea of being voted into power and coming to remain in a lofty tower and watching people therefrom while enjoying the shade of power has gone. And whosoever is ready to serve people at this point in time, it is him or they that are ready to sweat it out for Nigeria to get fully adjusted for our common good.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, sorry, just before Mohammed speaks again. You are parents, or we are parents on the political scene. Reminds quite a number of people about, or a lot of people do feel that, well, there is a certain narrative. I'm just going to paint it very simply. A lot of people say that we are in a quasi-democracy. That is, where we have a recycling of leaders in the past, appear on the scene. And then the question continues to bother the mind of Nigerians. What is it in the past that wasn't done, that our leaders, which I believe you were part of them, now want to do in this new world, in this current democratic dispensation?
Thank you so much. First of all, I know I supported the government yesterday in coming up with numerous innovations that are still till this moment being imitated. And many are doing it right, most are doing it wrongly in states and even at the federal level. I am very proud of what we did in the 90s, of the creation of some certain institutions that touch the life of virtually every part of Nigeria and every institution in Nigeria. And that is what we are expected to see. You think deep, you consult deep, you also do your researches deeply with Nigeria at heart, and then creating process that should even people be seen to conduct themselves in that policy lower than expected, it can still reach out to everybody. We have done that yesterday. And from our sins and conducts, even yesterday, we were tested, and people can be our witnesses today. We are not power thirst. I didn't converse for any power. I never held any political position. But looking at it deeply in managing those in political positions yesterday, some of us sat down from scientific leadership questions and assessed people and drafted people that was acknowledged and then noted, all for the common good of Nigeria, nothing to do with us. So to those who found themselves in executive offices yesterday and failed by people's assessment, if they are back looking for power, I'm in a different category. Yesterday we assisted power, we supported power, we held on to it for people on the throne to be able to provide leadership to the people. That was considered just. And today, now that people have seen what we did yesterday, they decided that we should be seen to come to the fore to contest. And now that we are here, the reservoir of our research, of our findings, are what Nigerians require. I'm very optimistic of that. I'm not part of the fanfare of power. That's why you see, even yesterday, when we had the opportunity of supporting leadership, people only knew my name. They didn't know me. I was in several places. People will be talking about me alongside with me in their midst, but they didn't know who I was up until a certain point in time. And I think most people also didn't know me, even when the propaganda started on me. Up until Oputa started in the year 2000, October, we were brought to Lagos. They didn't know who Mustapha was. My description was that of a giant, an illiterate who doesn't know, who cannot speak, cannot even write, who was there thumbprinting his name in paper, who doesn't know God Almighty, who was always there bullying people by his structure. That was the way I was described in most magazines in the country, most unfortunate. But when Oputa panel started, that was when many people came to the fore, including religious leaders coming to talk to me in prison. I remember there were bishops who did that. So looking at what we did yesterday and the opportunity of providing leadership from the center to the country are two different worlds apart. We never canvassed for told people lies, and did a different thing entirely. If given the opportunity, I am totally sure that we are coming to do numerous things different. So the issue of the cycle you are talking about, we are far from it. We have no business with it. We don't come to the fore to sell ourselves for what we cannot do. What we know we can, we can. First of all, we didn't also come to the fore until after an in-depth mental and written appreciation of the state of Nigeria. So we are sure of the steps we are taking or we intend to take if given the opportunity.
Excellency, sir. I must appreciate the fact that you mentioned religion, tribe being a problem that has divided us more than keep us together. Now that your leadership is willing to rescue this nation from the quagmire that it is, what would you be doing differently to help us use the same tribe and religion towards national development?
I once talked about qualities of people stretched from across Nigeria and those in diaspora. Identification of qualities that we desire of having round pegs in round holes speaks for itself. It doesn't matter that we are squarely going to look at the membership of the party we belong to when tomorrow we are given power. It doesn't mean because I'm a Muslim, I'm going to look for Muslims only. And it doesn't mean because I'm a northerner, I'm looking for northerners to be fixed there. That is wrong. There are numerous qualities of leadership. And so many books today have talked about 17, some 20, some 21 from the little I read. But out of the experience we have had in managing Nigeria security yesterday, and out of also that feeling and that concern for this country, while I was in detention, I found time to look at Nigeria deeply. And then I was able to have built up qualities of leadership up to 46. And I'm happy that I gave one to a foreign institute that works with the London School, London University directly, and they are building of that. One of those that are very silent but extremely important is the word courage. The capacity of leadership or any form of governance, looking at the sum totality of the population that it is provided leadership to, and be seen to carry all along in your thinking, in your thoughts, in your immediate plans and strategic plans for tomorrow. And for you to do that, then you are given sense of belonging to all. But where you lean your strength to a particular tribe or to a particular religion, suspicion comes in. After all, every qualities of leadership and the essence of leadership are resting on only two things. You provide hope to the people when their confidence is lost, and vice versa. Any other quality and any other expectation or the essence of leadership are resting on these two: hope of the people or confidence of the people. When one is lost, you provide the other, and vice versa. That's the essence. So in any leader who refuses to look at leadership from this bipod, in understanding that even if the qualities of leadership are expected of a person or a government or in governance, it should be resting first of all on these two down to the remaining ones. Tomorrow, some other people might discover some others, but for me, I have discovered this 46, and I'm sure the Institute told me they are going to write it in form of a book, and they will be using it to teach tomorrow for young leaders aspiring to come up, and not for Nigeria, globally. So to me, the issue of concentrating or having narrow-mindedness with leadership does not even arise. We are looking at Nigeria from a broader perspective, including those in diaspora. And where necessary, where technicalities are involved and there are expertise elsewhere around the world, we can engage such person or persons or institute to be able to help our younger ones who may also be seen to be employed or drafted into some certain areas that are extremely disturbing. But to my assessment, from immediate need to strategic need in Nigeria, we may not require the expertise of some other countries. Nigerians are highly gifted people. We have seen it, we practicalize it, we were part of it. I was once also seen like that in US. We were in the same class with allied countries and America in one class, but surprisingly, the allied students from numerous parts of the world became more creative, and some of us were given awards at that level back home into Nigeria, with a commendation of us forming part of what they were doing for America and her allies. So in Nigeria, we are, as pronounced by one of the immediate past president of US, saying that Nigerians are the most productive, most creative, innovative, and most reliable in their economy and in services being rendered to America. We have them all across the world, in many parts of the world. So I am very optimistic. To me, even the most critic person in the worst opposition party ever that we shall be seen to contest with, if he has what it takes to be in position B, we shall pay for, we shall canvass for, and lure them into to serve the country. We are not sectional. The fact that we are in different parties does not mean that we are not Nigerians. It means that there is just a procedure that will allow one person to emerge as a leader of the country. So what is expected of that person is broad-mindedness, to know that Nigeria and Nigerians is or are your constituency that you should be seen to provide leadership to. So that narrow-mindedness is not part of us. And thank God, it is part of the manifesto in the Action Alliance as a party. It is also part of us. It's my principle. It is also part of our manifesto and leadership provision.
Okay. Well, since we're talking leadership here, we know that one of the most critical problems, with Nigeria at the moment is the problem of leadership. Some people say it's the problem of leadership. Others say it's the leadership problem. So, and I've tried to x-ray the two. I realize that they mean two different things. But whichever way, there is something that is established. There is a leadership problem in Nigeria. Now, you talked about leadership and being able to create hope, as the responsibility of the leader. I want to bring out two questions in this. One is that at the moment, Nigerians have lost faith, in anything called leadership because of the way, especially in the democratic dispensation, the actors, have actually displayed, what leadership means, a totalitarian system where, winner takes it all. But we are here now, and I have faith, that your experience can actually better the lot of this country. But a lot of Nigerians have lost hope, no matter who they are. I mean, the next thing on the mind of the larger percentage of Nigeria right now is to japa. They want to leave this country because they have lost hope. So my question is, how do you go about now reviving hope in the minds of the people, especially because without any offense, you are just at the background. A lot of people don't know you, except for those who study history, except for those who are well averse with, the political happenings in the country. A lot of people don't know you, especially this Japa generation, these Gen Zs. They don't know you, yet they form the highest voter population in the country. So how do you go about, inspiring hope in this set of people to ensure that come 2023 they can believe in Nigeria again? And that takes me to my second question, which is the issue of patriotism. It's funny that leaders, always demand patriotism from the Nigerian people. And I mean, the situations on ground does not require them, that's my personal opinion though, and what I've studied, does not require them to be patriotic. You want to ask that I'm patriotic, excuse me, and then there is no quality education, there are no social services. I mean, all of these things that would make one to believe in his state, in his country, they are not there as the benefit for the citizen. So how do we revive this to ensure that the Nigerian people who have lost hope now can become patriotic and demand, and not come as a matter of demand, but come as a matter of willful submission?
First of all, your first question talked about me being in the background and not known to the younger generations. That's what you talked about. Yes, I understand. I was kept away deliberately in prison. I was a young man also when I was kept there, looking at my age. When I regained my freedom 15 years after, I still came back also playing the same roles we were playing yesterday. My investments was totally on the youth, and it started in 1984. Registration and giving them direction for national building. That I know brought me at a certain point clashing with some elders who saw me doing something differently from my calling. That's my professional calling. But then what informed me to do that was also my professional calling, where a particular neighboring country was rated as the best in terms of speedy intelligence flow and intelligence management in the world. And the secret was using the younger ones, the youth. So the president then of Togo, created what was called National Youth Rally. And so therefore, by that, it means that in every household, all the younger ones were members of the rally, where he became the grand patron in the country. That gave a certain direction to numerous countries around the world, including the very best, or those who believe they are at the uppermost in the ladder. In whatever structure they design, some of us don't believe in though, but they copy from these same African countries in managing their internal security problems around the whole world. So it became a doctrine for the world to copy. And the youth was the secret. And another thing was a leader who identified the usefulness of the youth. But thank God some of us were doing that even before in helping Nigeria. We have done that quite a lot. Like the associations of the youth that started, including that of Africa. There is something called Africa Youth Congress that came up as a result of numerous other youth associations that I found and got them registered with me at the center or behind them as the steering force in their activities in Nigeria. Since that was my background, that is my background, and believing in the younger ones. The only thing you can talk about here is the fact that those who found us as threats to whatever they were doing for country, meaning misgovernance, they decided to frame us and kept us in prison with an exemplified persecution in history of Nigeria, where you are framed, tortured, and kept for such a long period. And I think it started with me. Even in the military or paramilitary, I'm the only person that thing has worked upon deliberately just to persecute us. My happiness is the fact that we are back. Our spirit is still the way it was, even if not much more, even aspiring to provide more services. So for the younger ones, all I'm saying is to those to those candidates who have been talking even before 28th of September, which is the official time set by INEC for all parties to kickstart campaign. What they are doing is illegal. Illegal, they go around, carry people along and sell themselves. And I thank God. My happiness is the fact that they only go to tell stories. They are not talking about their vision and dream for Nigeria. They are not talking about their in-depth researches and then holding on to secrets that will revive and kill Nigeria back on course for her greatness to be attained in the shortest time possible. They are just in an exercise which says for me, of me, by me, which is an exemplified definition of greed in Nigeria, most unfortunately. And the second question, it has to do with leadership, correct?
Yes.
Leadership in Nigeria. Leadership in Nigeria that by your own assessment even, and then by the assessment of every patriot, has failed. The issue of confidence rekindling to people's hope, or confidence or rekindling of people's faith in leadership in Nigeria actually has a bigger question mark today, in that numerous governments came and left. But we at all times material never sit back to, in retrospect, examine the fundamental issues. Number one, let me give an example with budgets alone. If you go back to decades past, there was never a time the elites or any association or associations decides to come together to look at the performance of a government from the point of view of budget performance alone. Like this is July or August. If you look at the year 2022, I don't think there is anybody known to Nigerians that has sat down to examine the performance of the budget so far. And that alone is very detrimental to the country's checks and balances formula. So that is to say that every institution, every organ of government that is involved is just busy doing whatever they like, because nobody sits to ask questions, nobody re-examine what they do. So from conception to performance of budget to the execution of budget in phases as it affects ministries, parastatals, or arms of government, you realize that numerous things are there but very faulty. And then Nigerians are either intellectually nonchalant or lazy when it comes to checkmating their rights, from preparation to bringing it into law, every fiscal budget, and talk less of its performance. In our research, I tell you this today, we've been to numerous ministries directly and in some cases indirectly using our teams. And this took us some 5 years, now 8 months we are into. We went to numerous parastatals to look at the budget and look at the attitude of the ministry or the parastatal in seeing what they do. There are a lot of waste. And I don't think if this is the attitude that we saw, then Nigeria is just there with budget that is faulty, wrongly executed, with greed being the driving force of many. So if from the structures we see there is any executive arm of government and that can operate from the structure that we have seen, like the one in this government of the day, there is no way you can either trace, track, evaluate, or get to know what they do by the day. And what most of these ministries do by the day is a capital shame and is disheartening, very disturbing, I tell you. And there is no way any budget can be seen to be executed, or to say at the end of every fiscal year, you can say the budget has performed at least more than 60% like it is. Even the 60% that we have seen, that it is the yardstick of assessment, is also faulty, because there is no institution standing that can give you an accurate figure of the performance of the budget as far as Nigeria is concerned. So a country that is just riding solo is a country that is directionless. And where directionless is defined in leadership, it is not necessarily the leadership itself, but lack of the capacity of having the checks and balances at every single step of policy or policies of institutions, ministries, parastatals that we know about that are supposed to be seen to be supportive at home, and their collaborators outside Nigeria that will make meanings to Nigeria. So if we sit down, or if as a country we can sit down and take fraction of people, of institutions and ministries to now examine the performance of any fiscal budget that has gone so far, you will be shocked at the findings they will come up with. We have done it, and we know what we are talking about. Modalities of containing such abuses and waste, also we have it in our hands. That's why we have confidence that when leadership comes to our hands, there will be new structures, because we discovered that only in Nigeria, when you conceive a policy, you equally should be seen to conceive modalities of protecting that policy to come to execution. In other countries where the institutions are standing, all you have to do is just to come up and innovate a policy and set it on, and it will begin to operate for and on behalf of the country and the people. The leadership will do little. But in Nigeria, coming up with the conception alone is not enough. But you have to now be seen to follow through with the protective measures through to the channels of actualization for the people and for the country. In the absence of that, you may have the policy, but it may not take an inch from you. It will fail, because there's no driving force from the point of view of having any institution standing.
So it's the painting of the picture of how inefficient our institutions have been that actually let corruption become the order of the day. Is what leads me to this next question. We've seen corruption in public service. Now Nigeria has been embarrassed with a contract scam in the global community. A company, P&ID, stepped into Nigeria, tried to defraud us of 9.6 billion, and fingered our prominent public servants, particularly former Petroleum Minister Ibrahim Lukman, former Chief Justice of this Federation, Alpha Belgore, who incidentally was actually contracted by this same company to speak on their behalf against his country. What can we do first to checkmate such kind of contract drafting? Two, be seen to punish and sanction individuals, institutions that try to sabotage the integrity of Nigeria.
This is oil sector. You also, before I even answer you, you also lost Bakassi completely and nobody is saying anything, including the Bar, National Bar Association of Nigeria. That is a monumental waste for numerous generations to come, looking at the resources on that island. If you can now talk about trillions of dollars from what is there, deposited from gas and oil, from the natural resources that supplies the fashion house in one of these NATO countries every year, and taking it away, and the country or the countries involved, Nigeria and Cameroon, are being left bare. We are busy borrowing while billions of dollars every year goes to such countries, and they are so heartless such that they are always happy to see us impoverished, and to see us begging, to see us taking loans, and they help in killing our institutions. They help citizenry in help to kill our institutions. To any person, any African, any Pan-African that will say, okay, let me take a look at these two countries. You go to the rural areas in Nigeria, you go to rural areas in Cameroon. At the end of the day, you will know that what is left of us in the definition true to itself of such a Pan-African who will look at Cameroon and look at the resources in Cameroon, come to Nigeria, go around Nigeria, look at Nigeria from the other point of view, and look at the two together from the point of view of African spirit, then you will know that either our elders who found themselves in power yesterday, or our elites who are in power today, or our younger ones who are well informed but they are in the unemployed world, or those who are in the either on the bar, or on the bench in our own judiciary, you will know that everything is wrong with all of us. Meaning you have all it takes to be and to be counted among the very first 10 in the whole world. But you are here sitting down there, and any tiny little force from anywhere will just come, take decisions that are regarded by any law as being extremely exploitative. And yet you accept it, and it goes, and you are busy complaining of lack of being. So to the very question you ask, and with the personalities involved, and today all I can ask is, where is the international law, and what were the rules expected of the international law? What was expected in our domestic laws in Nigeria? The question is, where is the case? And another question is, what are these forces that retarded it or kept it aside from being heard? And who are these Nigerians that are expected to speak out? Is it the human rights bodies, or is it the civil liberty organizations, or is it the CSOs in Nigeria? Or is it the Nigerian Bar Association? Or is it the bench itself? Or is it the African bench? Or is it the West African bench that are recognized? The matter, once it comes to the court, is a public issue. What you may ask is, where is it? Or is it that you have heard an executive body as at the time it happened that was part of secretly, or that compromised it? So that's why in Nigeria, first thing first, is a revival of the institutions that you have, so that Nigeria can be seen to stand on her feet. An issue where the poorest of the poor can say, I belong to this country because I know there are arrangements in the institutions that govern Nigeria, that cares for me, that protects me, and that will help me. There people will say, I have sense of belonging as a Nigerian. Then he can lean on to the country and give Nigeria its own services. Part of the breakages of your internal security problems today is simply because there is a wide gap between the have and the have not, being complemented by failure of institutions, and then from the greed of some certain individuals who ordinarily are expected to be seen to be fathers of the country or mothers of the country, as the case may be. So failure to provide leadership at different strata in Nigeria's life promotes numerous things, including this particular question you asked of. You may ask 9 point something billion And the question is, were you to be saddled with the responsibility of investigating the contents, the genesis of the contracts, personalities involved, and then a certain fraction of it that permeated into pockets at home and outside Nigeria, you will realize that you have individuals who are bigger than your institutions, who are bigger than your country. One of the major causes of insurgency, because when an individual realizes that there is no hope in what he does, what he's saying, or what he anticipates to do to better himself, his country, his people, a collective interest of his tribe, of his religion, of his own region in the country, or of a certain research of students, of relationship between people whom he believed that his dream would be complemented from discoveries from them. And if we realize that that is dashed, then mankind has options to go beyond or outside the law and act. It is visible in every part of Nigeria you go today. From the unemployed Nigerians, the young, vibrant, innovative, who are highly creative, who are very promising Nigerians, highly intellectual, they are there roaming our streets. When a brain from a vibrant soul that is ready to create and to innovate and then is not being complemented, he sits and he can, anything negative comes his way, he may also be creative out of it, and that becomes a problem to the leadership to handle. And then if he sits down and realizes that he has all it takes to provide some certain innovative activities, particularly in the electronic world today, Nigerians elsewhere are doing quite a lot. And I met numerous younger ones who are ingenious and who are ready to create numerous things that will make them billionaires overnight. But in Nigeria, there are some certain people who are providing leadership in different strata, are always jealous of such innovative younger ones. And to us, part of our manifesto is to identify, to talent spot such persons and invest therefrom and giving them the opportunities to roll. We believe in the one saying, which is divine, and then also is the guiding factor to any activity of man in life, which says there is no end to possibilities in the life of man, in the life of a country, community, or committees of nation. It's God that said so. So if God has said so, and you are now depriving people of such opportunities, first of all, you are anti the Creator who set them forth to your country. None of us selected to say he consulted God Almighty before being created in Nigeria. We are all Nigerians by the wish of God. So you only woke up and saw yourself as a Nigerian, that is to say, your elders, your contemporaries, and your younger ones, and those yet to be born, in your own services, either sayings or actions, innovations or some certain creativities will come up, things that will complement the country and the people, including generations to come. The question you may ask yourself today, those in leadership, if you can assess them properly today, then the answer will be a sorry, regrettably, it will be a sorry response. Meaning, greed is the driving force to so many who found themselves in power. Unfortunately, it has become a culture. Rather than seeing yourself being opportunistic, if you are given the role to provide leadership to people. Providing leadership to the people alone allows your name to go into history. You become automatically a leader, and you can look in retrospect to say, that were the achievements we garnered for mankind yesterday when we had the opportunity. That alone presents you as an elder statesman. But in Nigeria, from our activities, it is evident that the definition of leadership has nothing to do with such services rendered. It is just seen from the point of view of one ugliest part of greed, meaning they found themselves in power and the opportunities open to them is to steal, and when they leave power they are coming out super billionaires, and to them that is the yardstick of being identified as an elder statesman. This is a reversal way of looking at issues in life. If this has been the trend in Nigeria, at least time has come to get it reversed. It might be difficult in the eyes of some people that I have seen canvassing for power, who are only interested in the rhetorics, in the fanfare of the office, and then in the opportunities open for them to make bulgier pockets. We have nothing to do with that. It's unscientific, it's very inhuman, is unexpected of any person to to support such person, such persons, and such a drive under any guise to provide the next leadership. The next leadership should be prepared to be laborers, to be innovative, to go into the dust, to be very practical, to abandon the lofty tower and join the people in making Nigeria be. So that when your institutions comes, when empowerment in the real sense of it, against the tiny little peanuts that goes into the hands of people that has no meaning in today's inflation rating, the tiny little amount being given to people actually is, it to me, I look at it as him that smokes. Once you buy the cigarette with your money and then lit it on fire and then smoke, and the smoke goes, you neither the smoke nor the cigarette will remain at the end of the day. The cigarette will go away, the cigarette will burn out, the smoke will disappear, and at the end of the day, you are left less, and it's also affecting your health. That's the greed in Nigeria. They steal from you, they invest outside. They steal from you, they tell you lies. They steal from you, they misrepresent you. They steal from you and call you names. They steal from you and see you as animals and give you tiny little things. And when election comes, they steal from you and present themselves as holier than thou. They are making fool out of the society. Such people are not needed. By definition in any law, such person or persons who have such qualities are regarded as enemies of state. For example, you take any of these countries that Nigerians are always quick to talk about in copying their democracy there from, or laws, or social supportive programs. You take at any of them and you go to display 5% of such conduct as they do in power, they will end up in prison, they will never be statesmen, and they'll be treated as enemies of state. So until such a time where the entire general population of Nigeria will be sensitized to know, these are expectations of leadership at all levels. Anything short of this, be on your feet, kick them out of power. I'm not promoting insurgency, I'm not promoting treason, but all I'm saying is what the law is expected of a leader. That's why you see when they come to campaign, and when you see them frowning at the provisions of the law from the expectations of a leader, and the moment a person or persons frown at what is expected of him to exhibit to the people, then get to know that he is one of such deceits and you never can rely upon.
Okay. Interesting one. I mean, you put up quite a number of issues, but I think we should just go straight to talk about this because we've been talking about laws, and for any government, or any, especially our democracy, we know that the number one law is the 1999 Constitution that guides the affairs, of every person, whether political or not. But you also realize that a lot of people, even at the moment, have a challenge with that law. First of all, they believe that it is not a law that was concocted by the generality of the people, but by a select few, and hence does not capture the realities of the Nigerian state. Let me take it one by one. So, please quickly tell us, what do you think about, some people said we should replace the 1999 Constitution, have an entirely brand new law. Some people believe, well, we can just dust it up and then correct the gray areas and, begin to use that law. But what would you do, especially since a lot of people take advantage of that now, especially the rich and powerful in the country? It doesn't work for them. I mean, it doesn't practically work for them. It only works for the ordinary people, and that is when the law works. So what do you do, especially if you are given the opportunity to lead? Would you erase that law, create a new one that is workable and that can bring all Nigerians, into one single basket?
I thank you for this question. Prior to even talking about the Constitution of the Federation 1999, that is how it is called. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, I'm not a lawyer, but many even lawyers do say so in court to be able to call it easy. If you say 1999 Constitution, it means a constitution belonging to 1999. The Constitution of the Federation 1999, a law promulgated in 1999 for Nigeria. That is the true definition of it. First of all, I am one person who believe that we are completely wrong from 1977 and 78. For us to have established a team, and because we wanted America to come closer to us, to now be seen to pick presidential system, American style, 100%, and then brought the same system to the fore. One of the ingredients of lack of failure that brought friction, where Nigerians saw it bear in the conduct of the presidential administration, was because the entire thing was strange. And they were grappling with it to finish the first term. And when the second term came 3 months after, so many institutions found themselves dead, even though there were accusations of greed by the same country initially that gave that same presidential system for us to have copied. They played a role in bringing Nigeria using a particular word, squandermania, abusing politicians. So at that time, that was the history. But to me, some of us believe in looking at the world, just common sense. The greatest ally of United Kingdom today in the world is United States. But yet, United Kingdom is operating parliamentary system. And the closest ally in the whole world is operating presidential system. What are the differences? What are the reasons? We didn't sit down to, from the point of view of political science, examine the two and where they are operating separately. And we didn't also realize that looking at NATO as a whole, in each there are differences in their own laws governing their countries. And the question is why? Why should you be a copycat? A country that has culture, history, our own historical backgrounds, the diversity in us, that is strength, the resources before us, and then the level of education and awareness of our people. That is to inform your own democratic setting. But you abandon that and went to pick something totally strange to your people. Let me tell you about the presidential system, US. One of the major cardinal points that brought about it was what? Was the issue of immigration, immigrants and citizens. Until tomorrow, that is the yardstick, that is the major anchor point. Everybody came from different parts of the world, met the indigenes who are the Red Indians, and they displaced the Red Indians, fought them, and established a law that is protective of immigrants. An immigrant can come from anywhere and become anything you want to be in America. You require a system that is democratic, that will be protective to you against the citizenry. That's why any Red Indian you see till tomorrow, all their leaders, the moment you sit with them and talk about this phrase, you will be seen to be a friend. And I quote, "One day and before the world will learn, charity engine will return." You know the meaning? That is the hope, that is the aspiration of them coming back to their land and taking charge of their land. They have not lost of it. How old is the American democracy today? Some 200 years plus. But the dream in the typical Red Indian is there. One may ask, are they totally captured in the law? We have not sat down to now look at the laws or the type of system we are copying for Nigeria. We have not looked at it deeply. Our own team that left in 1977 or 78, I think, ahead of 1979 when power was handed over to the then NPN, Shagari's government then, there were teams that went to America, copied from and drafted the laws, the constitution for Nigeria. That aside. Even when in the 90s, 1996, 1997, when the Constituent Assembly sat, numerous issues were presented to the Assembly, including taking our culture, including taking our history, and then look at Nigerians from every perspective, and taking our diversity as a cardinal point here, where every single sector, every single tribe, every single aspect of our history that brought us together in our country should be captured. And that was done. Justice Karibi Wyatt was the chairman or president, was the one presiding. And I know some of us, the roles we played behind the curtain. I was the secret coordinator on activities they desire from what was being tabulated as subjects. He died, may so rest in peace. He spoke about this when we paid him a visit. I think it was in the year 2018 with some of us here. We went, and then he was able to have spoken out on the roles we played in bringing it out. Unfortunately, after the death of General Abacha, some certain portions that are critical on keeping Nigeria together and keeping Nigerian sense of belonging, and then keeping this country intact with that sense of unity, with everybody playing a role. And I give you a tiny little example. In Nigeria, you cannot look at leadership provision in whatever type of system you are bringing under the guise of democracy without knowing that traditional institution was there much earlier than what you have in NATO. In many countries in NATO, if you look at history, if you are a student of history, during the barbaric age in Europe, as at that time, our traditional rulers and people were already clothed, and there was a system of governance from traditional institutions. So today, you sit down and look at that chunk, that part of your history, and decided to have a constitution that now decided to exempt such classes and say they have no role to play. That is dangerous. That to me is shallow-mindedness. That to me does not reflect something that is supportive democracy, and that is something that will allow the democracy to last long in itself. Why was it removed? Look at US and look at the arrangement of convenience. Yet it allowed them to say, yes, you have a governor, correct. You have legislatures at the state and at the federal level, correct. You have chairmen of local government, correct. But every city and every state must have a mayor. The traditional rulers you have are mayors you require. The powers of mayor are supposed to be now looked at, which we did in the 90s, and are given to the traditional rulers. Identification of their sons from their own domains are part of their roles, giving them identity. They have roles to play with regional or district and then zonal security up to national level as being supportive to the main state, to the security of the state in America. In Nigeria, all our traditional rulers are just there at the mercy of their local government chairman. And even the little percentage that was created was the only thing left. And we created it in the 90s for them to have as captured by the Constitution. The question is, why do you exempt them? Another thing is being Africa and knowing fully well that investing strategic in the younger ones against tomorrow, in their education, their activities, skill acquisition, empowerment. The question is, where is it captured in the Constitution? You want to have democracy, but in one side, the democracy has exempted some that are part of the ingredients of promotion of exigency. How can you have peace? So some of us haven't studied this much and haven't conducted our researches this much. If you have to now have Nigeria that will allow democracy to be deeply rooted, you should be seen to touch on these aspects that are abandoned by our Constitution. We have to look at it, and I know there are also other areas. Campaign has not started. There are areas I will not talk about that we intend to introduce that we will all be proud of. After all, not a single person comes to look at correction in terms of governance or a law that governs a country. It is a collective team, and we have been on this for a long time. And to me, some certain people decided in 1999 that you are talking about to have removed some certain portions that was engraved in it. But then they decided to expunge them to suit personal interests. It's unacceptable, undemocratic. Also, it is unpatriotic for Nigeria's security. Nigeria's democratic practice is also unacceptable for the opportunities to be seen to be allowed for any citizen to aspire to come to the fore. It was done on personal interest by some people that you refuse to question.
All right. Sorry, let me just get this. So a lot of people talk about restructuring. And it is now a campaigning message for every candidate, across the political parties. And it's been like that, successive governments will talk about restructuring. And this particular administration, for example, spoke about it before they came into power. When they got into power, it became, ambiguous to them. I mean, there were certain people started saying, we don't even know what you mean by restructuring. It means different things to different people. But I think the closest to it was a lot of people say, why don't we go back to 1963, where the regions thrived, where these regions could manage their resources effectively and decide, what style they want to engage in, maybe their education or what exactly they want to focus on. But a lot of others say, well, restructuring definitely means different things to different people, especially now. I would like to have your idea of restructuring. Where should we be looking at?
Let me, with all sense of humility, to different groups, different people, given different definitions of the word restructuring, looking at Nigeria. This one I have just talked about is restructuring. But what is restructuring when you are looking at a country? Where in the real sense of it, in leadership provision and then in democratic investment, the word restructuring started. It started in 1786 or so in United Kingdom. Meaning the elders, those who are considered to have the wisdom and the knowledge and been associated with the kings, came together to have discussed their future. And that discussions of the future is a strategic planning of what they expect their country to be in relation to the rest of the world. That is the set goal. That set goal is now the direction upon which generations and generations to come should be seen to build their country therefrom. Meaning a direction has now been defined by the elders and the wisest in the land. That was restructuring, and that was the beginning, and that was the birth of the beginning from United Kingdom. And the next that did it was France, around 18 something, I cannot vividly remember, but it is in the 18th century, early part of it. They also sat down and worked out their own with a clear direction of what France should stand for, including their resources. Here, investment in a typical French person, investment in companies, directing them to go into the world and now bring resources back to their country, and then for them to always look inward. And whatever they have, from human resource to capital resource, all put together, should be seen to be colonized into making it French, to be for them, of them, by them. Correct? Then also after France, then one country that thrived to do the same is America. And that is one of the youngest ones in terms of restructuring. The elders in America, that's why up to today you look at Democrats and you look at Republicans. That's why till tomorrow they are talking of the wisest one, of the elders. If you look at the activities in their assembly in the Capitol Hill, you will see them always making referrals of their founding fathers. The statements and the outline that was documented, kept by their founding fathers, was the restructuring, meaning the rail upon which America's democracy is resting upon and is making her journey upon. That is their own restructuring. After America comes where? Comes China. China, Mao Zedong and the rest sat down and looked at their labor force and look at communism and look at other ingredients where every part of China is to be represented forever, and they will not be influenced by any force or any democracy anywhere else other than their culture, other than their history. It's like the old dynasties that make China all looking inwards, with all their leaders fully represented, and when then with their population, the size they came out, even as at that time, early 40s, early 90s, I think, no, early 40s, China had her own. And it was that direction that was said, that is what is regarded as restructuring, making referrals to the set goal direction by China into our economic life, social life, security, protection and sustenance of the spirit and principles of communism till this moment. And then the next after that is where? Indonesia. And this other country close to Indonesia, where Singapore. These two came up and sat down and charted their own. This is the most recent that people are looking at books. The latest I can tell you is the book written by him. What is it called? from third to first. The ingredients that form their direction core restructuring is right there. But in Nigeria, we have totally different definition and understanding of the word restructuring, and it differs from one zone to the other, one political party to the other, one association to the other, one activist group to the other. But the history of restructuring, the whole world over, I have told you where it started and I have told you where it is. In Nigeria, when do we get that done? How do we get it done? It is very easy. If you take away selfishness, if you take away mutual suspicion, if you take away abuses of right, if you take away with all sense of humility, ignorance out of some people, and if you take away the fact that some people are being driven by greed, looking at issues in Nigeria and how to maximize stealing from the resources, opportunities created for them in Nigeria. Some are in high positions. Some are contemporaries trying to rise up. Some are in the younger ones. This idea of stealing out of what we have, meaning the dirtiest aspect of greed, has already gotten itself into some certain people. With all sense of humility, some people used to say, if you can beat them, join them. So join them in stealing. You don't need such ideas. You don't need such stories to be told to our younger ones. If God has created you here in Nigeria, He expects the best out of you being exhibited in this country, and that is what we stand for. I have given you a little journey of history of restructuring in the life of democracy in the world, and I also told you about the misgivings or misapplications of services in our constitution and where we are today. So if we are settled with the responsibility of providing leadership to Nigeria tomorrow, we know what to touch to carry everybody along and on board. That doesn't mean we will not listen to ideas. And remember, during our time, God Almighty gave us the wisdom in creating zones for Nigeria, in adding states to stabilize, in adding local governments, in adding wards to every state in the country. So we have done that preparatory to having a constitution that will be complementary. The idea here is to carry all along. And the 6 zones have common histories. If you look deeply, they have common environments. They also have common mission. That's why if you sit down and look at Nigeria, and then you are now to spread activities in leadership, every single zone have some certain peculiarities that the rest of the world don't have. So we are undermining who we are. So we sat down and look carefully, including agriculture. And people don't believe that we have gone. You can take any profession in life and look at each zone and then see what they are endowed with, different from the rest. For example, South-South. If we take South-South, the investment America do have, minus oil, minus gas, keep that aside, minus capacity to, even though unfortunately some oil companies are into environmental activities that is polluting the environment, the resources from the fish, no, that aside. A typical Southerner has all the qualities expected of a Marine. America spends fortune to train one Marine. But in South-South, naturally, they have natural qualities of Marine. So were Nigeria to be United States, they wouldn't spend much more money as it is to produce a single Marine. That is cost saving. And that is productivity. And you can teach the whole world. So every Southern person, that is opportunity to have been created there, the environment by association, by activities, by training, by whatever activities you do that will see you grow up. You are naturally a Marine person. If you are, for example, in Northeast, naturally you are a mountain expert, mountain warfare expert. But it is the environment that taught you to be so. If you are in Northwest, naturally you are a desert warfare material. You don't have to go to spend much time. If you are from North Central, for example, you are also an expert in logistics. By nature, by our history, and by our activities. If you are from Southwest, for example, by nature, you are into psychological warfare and you are into medicine and you can provide the best in any aspect of warfare. At Southeast, by nature, you are a jungle warfareist, which is one of the most difficult things to be. You are a survivalist by their environment, by their culture, by their training. And that's why you see, it's only in Southeast you see people, no matter the difficulties, no matter what, they know how to live alone. You go in the middle of nowhere, you just see a mansion for him and his family. He's not afraid of anything. He's a survivalist. He's a jungle warfareist. Is by history and by culture and by environment. So many bigger armies around the world are spending fortunes to create such qualities. We have by nature, and we do not appreciate who we are. And then there are some other parts of Nigeria that are by nature also talented in terms of feeding the world. Our soil is there for us. For example, some people will say, why did you zone south-south the way it is? But I tell you, you don't need, I'm now talking agriculture in terms of feeding ourselves. One of the examples, and I'll stop here. One of the examples here is looking at every zone. You'll be amazed. It took a long time. It took assessments. It took practical exercises. It took researchers. It took people to the environment to say, one single mixture of fertilizer is a disservice to Nigeria. It promotes desertification from the north and soil erosion in the south. So every zone should also be seen to have their soils tested, fertilizer adjusted to the deficiencies of the soil. Then you will have maximum productivity. You will have also soil protection from it. But people don't understand why in the 90s we participated in making Nigeria divided into 6 zones. It's for numerous reasons. That to me is also structure. For example, the current fertilizer being supplied across one single mixture for the entire country. If you continue with it in the next 50 years, it will be a sorry side. You will be importing food. You will not be growing food. You can quote me. I said this. And so take every aspect of life and look at each of these zones. It is an investment.
So, every answers you've given prior to this question I'm about to ask has anchored on insecurity, security challenge, insecurity, security challenge. Which leads me to this. Arms proliferation had bedeviled our society. What's your view? What's your view?
One of the answers I can give you that may shock you is to start by looking at the histories of rigging activities in Nigeria. Rigging brought so many desperados in politics into importing arms and arming their own thugs to fight another party or other thugs across Nigeria. And when it started in the late 70s, nobody checkmated that. And another thing that brought this hopelessness in where people will canvass for, get the support of the people, but at the end of the day, the queuing of people to vote for Mr. A or Party A, at the end of the day will have a contrary result, brought about people becoming desperate to know that we can fight it out. And that's why at any time you have had elections, until this moment, you can quote me, I say, until this moment, and that is one thing I haven't heard Nigerians talked about. You have insurgency, but you never sit down to say, what are the sources of supply of arms into the hinterland and to the wrong hands? What are the sources into the hinterland that is bringing in arms and ammunitions that has created so many unknown armories from north to south? And there are too many of them, and it's scary. Today, there is not a single agency in Nigeria that can give you figures as to an estimate of arms in wrong hands or armories across Nigeria that are illegal, meaning that is not government's own. So at every single time there is election or there was election, you see the agencies were used. Now it's time for us to talk about it raw. Let me give 1979. In 1979, unfortunately, police were used to be able to tilt election elsewhere. And then it was in that process, at that material time, now police discovered between late hours and the early hours of the next day, stuffing boxes is a difficult thing to do that has to provide to all the polling stations in rigging. Police discovered that no matter the stimulants you take, cola nut, coffee, ink on your right and paper on your left going this way will not stop you from going to sleep. This is how much we have invested in rigging. But they discovered that once you take the ink with a rubber band and tie it on your head, Once your hand can come on top of your head to a ballot paper, without stimulants, you can't sleep. This is discovery out of illegality on how to cheat ourselves. But then that hurt a lot of other parties at that material time. And people say, when next election comes, I will fight it out and I must emerge. That idea was into people. There was no reorientation. There was no address to the abuses. Cases were taken to court. The aggrieved were not addressed, were not compensated, were not assured. And another election came. The same thing happened. As far back as all the elections we have had, they all have their own histories. I'm not going to talk about that now, but every single election had abuses meted to it. And we have gotten that documented. Most unfortunately. Some today are having direct connection with the current situations in Nigeria. Arms in wrong hands, drugs in wrong hands, armor is kept for them as and when the situation dictates. You go and take arms and fight. You fight fellow Nigerians because of political interests, not national peace. So you have people who are looking for power, but from the money they have stolen, from the abuses meted to the country yesterday, and from the bulgy pockets they now finance people into creating more problems, in promoting more causes of insurgency in Nigeria's stability. Some of us are aware of this, and we have documented a lot of history, a lot of activities in our researches, and we believe we can address it, particularly investing in the younger ones, in reorienting them to now be seen as investments for tomorrow's activities in democracy.
Your Excellency, just to build up on this question, you know, this government especially talk more about proliferation, and then they usually refer to Libya and the breakdown of order, which has actually made the Lake Chad Basin and the entire Sahel region, porous. Especially in this government, most of the reports have been that the breakdown in Libya, has caused the proliferation to travel down, to Nigeria, from Niger to Chad and all of that. It seems that narrative seems to negate, what you just said.
Absolutely.
I want you to tell us about that part, of our security challenge, where arms come into the country.
Ordinarily, I don't like delving into it, but out of education, and I think there is the need for us to talk about this. One may ask, what is the population of Libya? What is the population of their armed forces? What is the size, what is the strength of their own armed forces? Army, Navy, Air Force. What are their arms holdings? How can Libyan arms holdings be seen to supply the whole West Africa and North Africa? Is that a cover story? What's the quantity? Arms supplied to Libya are documented. They keep them in their armories. The countries that supplied them are known. And from serial this to serial this are there. The intelligence bodies in Nigeria and around the whole world, they do that. Once you take a weapon and then look at the number, you'll be able to know who manufactured it and for whom and when. And whose own armory is this supposed to be. I know there was breakage into their armories. I know there were rebels in Libya. But the number of rebels that emerged, a census was taken by United Nations. And they discovered in Tripoli alone, there were 301 rebel groups. I repeat, 301 rebel groups, a census taken by United Nations. These 301 are different rebel groups. They fight themselves. The question is, the arms are also not enough for them. What is the balance that came to West Africa? Who is involved in creating that story? Who is involved in arms importation, illegal, and arming his people that give that as a cover story? So that's why you see, once you see a political body or a country given a story, don't take it, look at it, x-ray it, and make sense. God has given you the capacity to ask questions and look for answers. I tell you today, with all sense of humility, none part of our borders is fully manned. There is no port today in Nigeria that can say, we have inspected all the containers coming to us and we issue them certificate of being arms free. None. I challenge you, none. It was of recent that some of us talked about scanners and became a challenge. So some of the bodies responsible for that, only last 2 weeks, they now became serious and began to say scanners have been imported and they are on their way. They said so. But we asked the questions. But arms have been coming in unabated. And there was a time also early this year when some of us, in trying to now identify this aspect of arms proliferation and then understanding the sources of promotion of insurgency in Africa, we discovered an Asian country that was importing a gun called AA, anti-aircraft guns, most dangerous. But then they discovered the weaknesses in Nigeria and in bringing these anti-aircraft guns, bigger, with bigger bullets that can bring down any aircraft, no matter the size. But Nigeria is their own transit point. So when the buyers in Nigeria collect them, they were also helping in transiting them to 3 other countries plus Nigeria, making 4. Mali, Mozambique, and Congo DRC. Congo DRC, Mozambique, Mali, and Nigeria, 4 of them, nothing more. But you know, in the aviation world, once rebels or bandits, as we have, or Boko Haram, began to get themselves armed much more with anti-air defense guns, then it is evident the aviation authority world over may declare your airspace what? A safety question. So you may be declared a no-flying zone. It happened before to Chad when rebels were fighting and they took a lot of anti-aircraft guns in their hands. So the whole world, all aircrafts were to bypass Chad in going to wherever they are or they were, until sanity was restored with the president that was killed lately. So in Nigeria, there is much more from the international market coming through our waters into us, coming through our borders into us. And one shameful thing I will tell you, I wish we have satellite so we can say, okay, spend 1 week in looking at the activities of foreigners in Nigeria. There are more foreigners in wrong places in Nigeria in hundreds of thousands by the day, just in search of solid mineral resources for themselves. But there are individual Nigerians who are standing in for them. And there are hundreds of thousands of whites who sit with Boko Haram, who feed Boko Haram. They share common food. They recharge their batteries for their telephones, for their laptops, with which they have been communicated to by hostile international bodies in dealing with the same Nigeria. And such international hostile bodies are also patronizing your oil and your natural resources. And to you, it is right. And one disturbing thing we discovered is that the whole world over, anywhere you go, a foreigner has some no-go areas in that country. There are places you cannot go, but only in Nigeria. The citizen has some no-go areas. The foreigner has everywhere to go to. Only in Nigeria, failure of institutions, lack of foresight, lack of laws, lack of law enforcement, lack of knowledge in our law enforcement, lack of patriotism in our leaders or in some of our leaders at all sub levels that are entrusted to provide leadership. Meaning, once you have the leadership in Nigeria, you are just coming to do labor work in a scientific manner, carrying all along. That's why I can say at this point to tell you, any person that lacks the wherewithal, the energy, the vision, the capacity, the patriotism, any person who has stolen yesterday and coming to say, I have repented and I'm coming to provide leadership, that is deceit. Don't accept such a person. And I'm not campaigning, I'm not telling people to look for who, but I'm telling you there are numerous qualities to look for. But people with such qualities that are in the rest, if only Nigerians know, they should know that these are fake people. They are coming in to give you the worst that we are in.